Hello, today something a little bit different. Instead of inking with brush, we will be using this little thing. This is called a pen. Autofocus. Look at that. Yeah, it doesn't want to. Anyway, this is a Belgian or French, I'm not sure. French-Belgian maybe. Pen, it's Sergent Major. And right now it has this just perfect state. I will get to it into more detail as I draw. Today we will be doing a lot of camera movement. No, just kidding. Last time I tried to get the camera more behind me. I'm kind of trying to find the best way to do it, because if it's just right behind me, I can't look at the screen without contortioning myself in weird ways. And it's not really the best drawing position in the world. And in the end, what matters is actually the drawing more than the filming of the drawing process. It's just, a happy afterthought, so to speak. So, today we will be drawing fun little mythological creatures. Just making the sound a little less loud. I have rather decent hearing, by which I mean more the biological side of things, because I'm not very good at, when I hear words, I have sometimes trouble to process them. So, like, what language was that now? Or be utterly confused, that's also something that happens often enough. So anyway, this pen has now just the perfect state. Thing is, many pens are pretty hard when you start drawing with them. Not in the sense hard to use to draw. I mean literally hard. Like, you have to push hard to make a smooth ink line. I can show it now with the back. Well, not now, first here. Thing is, the pen has rather long drawing time, so I will do 2 videos for this page, I think. The thinking is rather quick, I must be honest. It's especially now that the pen is so perfect. So, and when you use it a bit, the pen will often soften up, and you will have a moment where it's just absolutely perfect and brilliant, where it's just soft enough to do smooth lines, but not hard enough, but not too hard, but still hard enough to keep the lines from getting too thick when you mean to make them thin. So as you can see, I can still make very thin lines here, but I can also make much thicker lines. And the pen, that's what's a bit more difficult, is it takes a bit of use to with the pressure. You have to use a lot more pressure than the brush. You don't really have to use any pressure at all with the brush, really. You don't. It's gravity who's doing all the work. But you have to hold up the brush in the best way, so it's really a different way to ink. And if you really want to confuse yourself and be up for a challenge, I recommend just inking with a pen and immediately afterwards inking with a brush. This is very confusing, so don't do it actually. This was meant as a little joke. I do them at times. So yeah, I figured, there are not many videos where you see me using a pen, and I'm actually doing quite a lot with them. Often pictures that I will watercolor later, but also sometimes it's just better. It depends. It's just something different, you know. And I think it does. There are situations where the pen is just better, and situations where the brush is better. Oh yeah, the more you know. Anyway, but right now the pen is pretty nice because I can. Well, I can show you now with the back. You see, very thick line, but I can also do very thin lines. This is just great. This is how it should be. But there will be a moment where the pen will get too thick. I mean, where the lines will get too thick, and you can't do thin lines anymore. And this is when true sadness begins. But more seriously, this will be the moment where you just get a new nib for your pen and start to wear it a little bit again until it's well, at the beginning it will be very hard, and then it gets soft again, and then you have utter wonderful bliss, and then it will be over again, and you have to use up a new one. I do have a little bit of a reserve here, I can show you. I found a funny way to store them. Magnets! Magic. So yes, I have this magnet. The white piece is also a magnet. It comes from an old toy. And I stuck it on my desk lamp. So it's always very easy to find. And yeah, does it look silly? Yes, it does look silly. On a side note, music I'm listening today is from the inimitable and fantastic Tim Follin. It's on the old Amiga, which is a computer that was very popular in Europe because in Europe they had a competent division, a sales division, whereas the American original division was made of crazy people, essentially, and idiots who were ruining the Commodore, and all the money came from Europe. I'm just kind of very much simplifying, but that's the gist of the story. Computer was hugely popular here. You will find them at pretty much on all flea markets. They're not rare at all. But because it was so popular, lots of games, and there are many games with quite nice music. There are also lots of games with shitty music, but there are games with nice music, and Tim Follin did some soundtracks for it, so I had to check them, because this dude can rock anything he wants. And he did. And he has a very interesting interpretation of Ghouls and Ghosts, which is what I'm listening to now. It's weird. I don't know if you will like it. It's you can really tell he's a big fan of progressive rock. So yeah, it's a bit weird, and so it's like you're mixing Ghouls and Ghosts with progressive rock and with some folk inspirations. So, is it weird? It is. Do I like it? Yes, because I'm also weird. Anyway, I will put the link in the description below. The nice thing is the soundtrack is 15 minutes long, which is kind of it's a good length for my videos. It's like the length where it's not too long to upload, but is long enough to really enable me to draw. And oh, accidents happen. Always have a little one of these ready when you're using a pen. Always. The risk of having bit of a ink drop happen is much higher than when you're using a brush. This is something you should know if you plan to work with a brush. So yeah, always keep a little paper towel at hand. I recommend paper towels rather than tissue fabric towels for a very simple reason. Um, they absorb very easily and you can twist, and one of the, like here, you can just twist the end to absorb the excess ink. And I recommend to absorb the excess ink rather than letting it dry as a drop, because if you let it dry as a drop, what might happen is that it, it gets all shiny and stuff, and yeah, you really don't want that. But so yeah, you have just seen what happens when a real drop forms, and how you should act. You have to act pretty quickly. Up. There is also another thing I noticed with when you're using pen rather than brush. It's when you know these little lines. If you wait a little until you do them, you have a risk that you have the previous line you drew where the ink is not fully dry yet, but starts to dry, and when you're using the brush to go the pen to go over it, the half dry ink and the fresh ink kind of mixes and dries up the pen. So actually it's pretty difficult to draw with the pen. Alright, I admit it probably takes a lot more practice than the brush. I don't know. They're preferences. The thing is, it's more precise. So this is a big plus. Once it's nicely used, but not too much, you can really have a broad variety of stroke sizes, so to speak. Mind you, with the brush you have that immediately. Other advantages is stocking and cleaning is easy and much easier than with, sorry, straight line, have to be focused. It's much easier than when you're using a brush, because cleaning a brush is horrible. So in a way it's easier than brushes, in another way it's harder. Every technique has its advantages. For my comics I prefer using brush because it's kind of exciting. And with some inked pictures I will also use brush, but then when I use paint I will use a brush, that's for sure. Yeah, I have to use a brush for that. So yep, that's that. Sold. It's not like I have much of an alternative there. Yep. Just doing some backgrounds there. It's not very interesting to watch, but it's part of the process. Yep. So I will turn the page around a little bit, because straight lines are kind of not my specialty. Well, I'm getting better all the time at them, but I guess I could use a ruler, but when you use a ruler it's very obvious that you did so. So what I do is I just turn the page and then, oh wait, bit of excess ink there. On a side note, the ink I'm using is German ink this time. It's proper drawing ink, not for calligraphy, it's drawing ink, made by Rohrer und Klinger, Leipzig, Co. KG. Well, Leipzig is the city where they produce it. Where they are, so Rohrer and Klinger. This little fella. Focus, man! Focus, you can do it! Oh, screw that. Yeah, I don't know if you can buy that in these states. You have to kind of find your inks anyways. You have to work for that. You don't get like, oh, hey, ink, bing! And you have the perfect ink. No, that's not how it happens. So yeah, it's a good ink. That's it. So I let the what I've drawn dry a little bit, and afterwards we will be drawing. Oh, pardon me, Mr. Camera. And afterwards we will be inking the centaur horse parts, and maybe do this panel too. I'm not sure what yet. Let's see. Some little corrections I will have to do here, but this big line is not dry yet. See this? And if I start drawing, I will go with my hand in the ink, which is not nice at all, because then I have lots of inks on the side of the hand. This is not blood, by the way, this is paint, because I had an art class this morning and I tend to, you know, oh hey, there's a little correction to do. Yeah, sometimes you just can take your hands to paint. It's funny. And sometimes it's just a brush you need, you know. And it's cheap. Most people have hands at hand. So yeah, we'll be back. And now I'll just let that dry. Oh, top tip. Do you have a computer that tends to overheat? Well, here's the solution to drying faster. Yes, it's professional. This is to turn the camera off.